you need to put the odds in your favor. It often takes 6 or 7 emails. Copy the first 20 or so names that you have. That's probably all he's going to see, and maybe that's enough for him to click. We have verbal agreements from one of the challenges a lot of founders have is raising investment for their company. So in this video, I'm going to show you my exact strategy to reach out to angel investors to invest in my startup Demi's pre-seed round. The first thing you're going to want to do is get a list of potential angel investors. These should be folks in your industry who have walked the path that you have reach online, and invest in companies like yours. Now, I'll show you my exact list. I have about 20 folks who I came up with organically. These are people that are in my sort of social circles on Twitter, online obviously, and people that I've followed and admired for a long time. And then I leverage Claude Code to help me expand that list to more. And I'll show you how I exactly did that right now. So copy the first 20 or so names that you have, and it can really be any amount, but typically the more the better. And I'll use Whisper Flow. Tane, the founder, is on my angel list of investors. And I'll literally say, here's a list of angel investors. I want you to generate 80 more names for me. Look at the list, look at people with similar profiles. And also you have an understanding of my code base and my pitch deck. So use that to help inform you who you put on this list. Now I'll end the dictation. I'll cut out the bit where I talked about Tane, and hit send. Claude will then work. It'll probably take a minute or two, and it will come back with 80 potential angel investors that you can add to your list. Now, I'm going to pause this because I've already done it, and I'll show you the full list. So obviously we have Mathilde at front, and then beyond that, we have a bunch of other names. I mean, fun story about Ivan. He actually came into my office at my previous role. So that's my in there with Ivan for sure. We have Guillermo at Vassell. I'm a Vassell customer. We have a bunch of other folks, a lot of these companies that have actually used their product as well. So that's always a good in. You've now got your list of angel investors. How do you go about reaching out to them? Big red flag, the thing you do not do is come up with a templated message and spam it to all of these people at once. That is almost a guaranteed way for you not to get any responses to your outbound. Instead, what you need to do is take the time to individually and personalize your messages to get these guys' attention. You have to remember, these people are getting 10s or 20s or even more messages every week asking to invest in their company. So why do you stand out? So I'll give you an example of a personal outreach that you can do, but also how you can use AI to improve and optimize your workflow. So I'm gonna plug Jay Hoovey here, big inspiration for me. If you don't know Jay Hoovey or John Hu, he is the founder of Stan, which is an all-in-one product for creators. And he is a master of communication and positioning. It's something I really admire about him as a person. Go and watch any of his YouTube videos, especially the ones where he's pitching for investment himself, and you'll see how he turns every weakness into a strength and really drives a sense of excitement around his company Stan. And that's something that I hope to replicate for Demi. So how can you do that? Well, let's jump into Claude. Let's create a new conversation. And what I would do is something like this. Hey, research John Hu. He's the founder of Stan. And I want you to look at some of his YouTube videos, particularly the ones where he's pitching for investment, like the one with Stephen Bartlett, or even cold DMing Mark Cuban, by the way, is where I got the inspiration for this video. Shout out, John. And then I want you to understand how he leverages communication and positioning to make his company Stan seem as an excitable and investable company. I then want you to take those learnings and create a Claude skill that I can use for myself and my own personal outreach. Okay? That's all I'm gonna do. Hit enter, let Claude do the rest. Now I'm gonna pause because I've already done this, so I don't need to do it again, and I'll show you the skill, which is named Hoovey after the man himself. And as you can see, I won't go through this line by line, but it tells you about John, how he speaks, any context that is useful in these comms, founder context about me that I provided Claude, and a bunch of other things around the inevitable macro trend. These are techniques to help drive urgency and explain to the investor why Demi is a good investment. And then if you're really stuck for creativity, you can take someone on your list. Let's take Dharmesh. He's at HubSpot. He's hugely publicly known figure, very active on LinkedIn. And I'll just go, let's start a new conversation just so it has clear context. I'll say, hey, I'm doing outreach to Dharmesh, use Hoovy to generate a personalized message. So what this is going to do is completely generate an outreach to Dharmesh using the Hoovy skill and the context of me to give me a message that I can essentially send to Dharmesh. Now, whether I use this or not is kind of my call, and I would urge you to also evaluate if you use it or not. On the days where you're not feeling creative, for sure, lean on it, use it as inspo, and even send the exact message. But there will be other days where I encourage you to take the time to research the person yourself. And you may see things that resonate with you personally that Claude doesn't have context. Now, I've given Claude this context, but an example would be that I was raised by my granddad. So if there was a founder out there who also had a similar path to me, being raised by a grandparent, that would really resonate to me, and is probably something I would want to lead with when I reach out to this angel investor. So I always encourage you to do your research. If you want these people to invest in your company, you should really know about them and deeply understand what gets them going, what their interests are, so that they can really help you. Okay, cool. So we have the message for Dharmesh here. Hybrid teams for GTM, the part HubSpot doesn't control yet. So already we have a catchy subject line. Dharmesh obviously founded HubSpot. He may click into this to be like, hey, what's this guy talking about? And then Dharmesh, I've been building AI agents inside Slack for the last 2 years. First at Relevance, where I built their Slack agent and scaled it to thousands of teams. Now with Demi, which is basically the hybrid teams thesis you've been talking about. So a couple of things here. Immediately points to my expertise in the area and gives me credibility. Second thing it does is talk about what Dharmesh is talking about. So what's relevant to him and piques his interest. So this is a really strong opening. Now, for purpose of demonstration, I'm gonna completely forward this one on. Let me just have a quick scan of it. Okay, here's what I kept seeing. Engineering teams have coding agents, AI co-pilots, automated testing. They're shipping 2 or 3 times faster than 18 months ago, but GTM teams using HubSpot, using Slack, using all the tools, they're still manually triaging channels. That's a super strong hook. I actually love this. Love this. All right, so now I'm gonna conduct the outreach. So I know Dharmesh is popular on LinkedIn, but it's a little bit more difficult to DM on LinkedIn. So let's go to X. Okay, Dharmesh doesn't allow you to DM him on X either. No worries. What you can then do is go Dharmesh Shah, email, HubSpot. Okay, so here you can see some examples of what his email may be. Now, what I would actually do in this scenario is put his email in, but I would also BCC some other potential emails for him, right? HubSpot.com, you may have Dharmesh Shah at HubSpot.com, and you can put kind of as many as you can think of here. And then I'm gonna literally copy paste this one. I actually think it's really good. You know, if I was off camera, I'd take a bit more time, but for the purpose of demo, kind of wanna show you the power of AI. And then I'll paste that in here. I don't know why, but it always pastes as gray. Let's go black. And then obviously just tidy up the formatting a little bit. Actually seeing this in email, this is far too long. So what I'll do is go back to Claude. Just say, make it more concise. Folks are not going to open an email from someone they don't know and read a paragraph and paragraph and paragraph of text. So you need to make it very concise and get their attention early and get them essentially to reply to you. Awesome. All right, this is much better. So let's copy that, change the color again. There you go, Dharmesh. I built the Slack agent at Relevance AI and scaled it to thousands of teams. Now I'm building Demi. Basically your hybrid teams thesis applied to the one place GTM teams actually live, Slack. All right, let's send that. Cool. All right, so that is exactly how I would reach out to a potential angel investor. And then if you go to your list, I would then update the list just so you know where you're at. And what I would tend to do is once you've done the 100 or even once you've done 50, I would review the folks you've reached out to. Have they responded? If they haven't, chase them up. If you're expecting to get replies off of one email, you are highly ambitious and you need to put the odds in your favor. So chase them up. In sales, it often takes 6 or 7 emails to get a conversion. Don't expect you to be any different. Now, what you can do is if you've sent a couple of emails, maybe try DM them on Twitter, or the other way around, right? If you've DM'd them a couple of times, send them an email. The goal here is you may not always convert them on the first attempt, but you may get them on the second, you may get them on the third, or even the fourth. So keep trying. I'm going to cold DM Lenny in the hopes that I can get him to invest in Demi. Lenny and Demi kind of makes sense. Lenny is someone I've admired for years now. What he's done with this podcast is insane. He has literally had the best product-minded people on his podcast talking the thing that I've learned and loved for the last 10 years, products. Now, having him on our cap table would be insane. Not only, again, like I say, because he's been such a mentor to me online, but being candid, he has insane reach, insane connections, and that could do wonders for Demi. So I'm going to show you right now how I'm going to reach out to him and get him to invest in Demi. Okay, so the first thing I think about with Lenny is obviously his podcast. Now, one that comes to mind straight away is the one with Jeff. So let me find the podcast. Here it is. So this is with Jeff Weinstein, who is one of the product leads at Stripe. Also on my angel investor list, by the way. He's an awesome product thinker. The way that he thinks in systems, but also appreciates product craft is insane. And that's gonna be my opener to both of these guys. Demi is a product, if you don't know, it's designed to cut the noise out of Slack so that GTM teams can operate as quick as engineering teams currently operating. An obsession with product craft is at the core of the product. So I think reaching out to both Lenny and Jeff, that will resonate with them a ton. Lenny does post on Twitter, and I still call it Twitter, not X, so I'm gonna do the same. Now, what's a catchy subject here, or first line? I'm gonna go with craft and AI. Something that will really resonate with him, given that he is a lover of product craft, but more of his podcasts are now talking about how to use AI in product management. Something given that I was a product leader at an AI company, I'm well positioned to speak to. So let's go with Craft AI. Hey Lenny, huge fan here. I've been following the pod for years. I love your obsession with product craft and your pod with Jeff at Stripe is my all-time fave. Okay, so I've just written out this message and I've realized that this video is literally going to be titled DMing Lenny to get him to angel invest into my company. That is the obvious hook. I can't believe I didn't think of that start. So let me just rewrite this. I'm making a motif vid about you. Hey Lenny, huge fan here. I've been following the pod for years. Now, what's the relevant part to him and how do I tie that into Demi? I love your obsession with product craft and your pod with Jeff at Stripe is my all-time fave. Also, your app with Dan Shipper about how you use AI dropped a ton of value. It's the same love for craft and AI productivity that I'm taking into my startup with Demi.com. I would love for you to join in our journey so far. Here it is. Quit my job at Relevance AI to go all in. A live Mac app, let me capitalize L, being used by GTM teams to solve the Slack distract problem. So it speaks to what we're solving. And we are live with 8 design partners using it every day. Let's just not repeat live. I'd be pumped to have you on the cap table and hopefully 100x your return. PS, I'm making a video about how to get the best angel investors to invest in your startup. Title is cold DMing Lenny's podcast to angel invest in my startup. Hope you don't mind. All right, there it is. I'm making a YT vid about you. That's probably all he's gonna see, and maybe that's enough for him to click. Hopefully it is. What am I doing in terms of the YouTube video? Why I'm a fan of his? How do our shared interests relate to Demi? What is Demi and where are we at so far? Close. I'd be pumped to have you on the cap table and hopefully 100x your return. Send. Damn, that's actually a pretty long message. All right, see how we go. So at this point, we're about a week and a half to 2 weeks after sending out the initial cold outreach. And I wanted to give you an update of where we're at and also share the learnings. So let's go through the stats firstly. You can see on screen, so I reached out to 74 angel investors, and these are wide ranging. Some of these folks are in my network and I know they actively angel invest, and some are folks that I've seen on Twitter, sometimes engaged with them on Twitter. They are sort of public figures in industry, whether it be in tech or product, and actively angel invest. Firstly, 74 folks have been reached out to, and pretty much all of these I've sent follow-ups or even 3 or 4 emails. In terms of who responds, now, I think the problem with cold emails is you think you're never gonna get a response, and largely that is true, but what most people don't realize is, first of all, these are all high productivity individuals. They're checking their emails 24/7. And actually, I use Superhuman for email and it has read receipts. And you can see, so if I filter on the people that have read the email, 39 out of 74 folks have read an email that I sent. So that's over 50%. So 50% have seen Demi, they've seen the pitch, and they can then decide if they want to invest or not, right? So out of that 39, did I get any meetings booked? Did I get any angel investors? So firstly, let's do responses because it was actually interesting. Some were just very polite and responded, and I think that's useful to know. So out of the 39 that read the email, I got 11 responses. So that's nearly a 30% return rate. That's awesome. That's well above benchmark. And part of the reason I got such a good response rate here is because I took my time to really figure out what motivates them, what gets them excited, and tried to tailor my emails towards that. Now you can find that information out pretty easily online. Start by using, I use Twitter. That was the best source of information for me. It's also highly recent because you can see what they've recently tweeted about. Use LinkedIn, some of them post on LinkedIn. Use YouTube. YouTube's a great source because not many people are willing to go and watch those videos and really get the secret sauce that gets them ticking. So out of the 11, I have got 3 meetings booked, 74 people outreached, 3 meetings booked. That's about 3 or 4% meeting book rate, which is, again, average could be 1 or 2% at best. So pretty happy with that. I will say 2 out of the 3 meetings were folks that are already in my network. So Ricky, I actually worked with Ricky. He was my founder about 7 years ago, and he is an active angel investor. Vidit, now I actually haven't met Vidit in person, but we've sort of been in the same ecosystem in the Australian tech scene, and we're speaking this week. And then Jason Calacanassis, I think most of you will know who Jason is. He runs the All In Pod. He was famously one of the early investors in Uber. I think he wrote a 25K check. I think he tweeted that he wants to see AI startups pitch him. So I actually saw his tweet and emailed the address that he provided, and his team responded back to me, and we're speaking next week about his actual accelerator. So pretty good. There's a couple of specific angels in mind that I'm really trying to close, and they are reading every email I sent. I think I'm on 3 or 4 emails with a couple in particular. And I'm thinking this video, because they will be in the video, this video may help me close them. So if I don't close them before this video goes out, you best believe I will be sending the video as a final close opportunity. A couple of things that I learned in this process and I wanted to share so you don't make the same mistakes. Number one, because I'm active on Twitter, because I've engaged with a lot of these folks on Twitter, I thought DMs were the best way to go here. What I actually learned pretty quickly is that if you DM someone and they don't follow you, it's very likely to go into their spam folder or the part of Twitter where it doesn't show who you're DMing. So you can see here, This is the message request section, which often gets bombarded with spam or outreach. If it ends up in here, it's highly likely they're not going to see it because these folks get a ton of messages. So you're not going to be at the top, and I doubt they're scrolling through this on a regular basis. So I learned that the hard way and then pivoted to email. So whilst email is probably one of the most traditional old school forms of communication, it's still where a lot of people operate. So definitely get into email. Now, the second tip I picked up on as I'm doing this is I always thought responding to your original email in your follow-up emails is the best thing to do because it shows that it's not a one-off email and that you're following up on a previous outreach. That's actually the worst thing you can do. What it does signal to the person that you're reaching out to is that they've already ignored you and they're likely to ignore you again. So I would rather send them a completely new email, new subject, new content, and it's almost a fresh pitch, fresh frame of mind, in the hopes that whatever you're sending them is exciting to them enough that they respond to you. And the third tip I would say is finding emails is difficult at times. I actually worked at a company called Freckle. Check them out, freckle.io. They help you enrich emails pretty easily. I actually worked at a company called Freckle. Check them out, freckle.io. They help you enrich emails based on incomplete data. So if you have their name, if you have their company, you can use Freckle to try and get their emails. But to be honest, I also felt just Googling the person and putting email address was highly effective. I think with AI and Google's integration of AI, that's what they've added, and they're scanning all of their sort of available data, and it was actually pretty effective. I would also BCC alternative email addresses for these folks. A lot of the time they will have a slightly different email address to what you expect, so you can cover that risk just by BCCing in a couple of different variations, and you'll quickly find out through your mail delivery rejection email, the ones that don't work. What I've done is then noted which were the confirmed emails, and now I have a really clean list of angels that I can reach out to pretty quickly. So next steps from here, obviously I've got 3 meetings over the next week or 2. Hopefully I can close a couple of those folks into Demi, and there's still a few more angels in particular that I'm keen to get on a call with and sort of chat through Demi with them. It's been a few days since we caught up, and I've emailed 74 possible angel investors, and guess what? I had 74 responses. No, unfortunately, that's not how it happens. The reality is I probably need to email more. You should expect at best, 2 or 3% response rate from these angel investors. They're really busy. They get, I think Michael Seibel at YC said he gets 250 emails per day. The reality is, he actually said he responds to 50, which is really, really high. So fair play, Michael. He read and didn't respond to mine as a spoiler. But the reality is, on average, a really, really good email will probably get a 2 or 3% response rate. So I need to get my numbers up to at least 100 to even have a chance of 1. Really 150, 200. But right now, when we're checking in, I have 74 angel investors contacted. So in terms of responses, I've actually had 2 meetings booked out of the 74. I will say I am in the networks of both of those people. One of them was my old CEO in one of my first ever jobs. And then the other 72, on average, I've probably had, honestly, like 30 or 40% read rate, which is pretty good. I use Superhuman for emails. You can see read receipts on there, and you will not believe some of the biggest names in the world are reading my emails 10 minutes after I've sent them, which is pretty cool. But I haven't yet got a meeting booked in with the other 72. And these 72 are typically some of the biggest names in the world, maybe too big, but we're talking like Lenny, we're talking Jeff Weinstein from Stripe, we're talking Matty, the founder of 11 Labs, Tane, the founder of Whisper Flow. You know, these are mega companies at this point who are probably getting, as I say, hundreds of emails every day. So in this section of the video, I want to show you what to do if you haven't had a response in your initial outreach. Now, when it comes to social media ads for comparison, on average, it takes 7 contacts with your customer before they make a sale. That's huge. Now, don't use 7 emails because you're going to end up spamming your angel investors. But the lesson here is that you're not going to succeed very often with just 1 email. So you really need to get the balance right of not being spammy, but also following up a couple of times just in case they were busy when they read your email. So in this clip, I'm going to show you how I send follow-up emails to try and get their attention. So I'm going to start by responding to some emails, or actually I'm going to start reaching out to some of the angel investors that actually read my email but didn't respond. So this will be the second or third follow-up I send. So this is Matt. He founded WordPress. Nicole Wishoff of Wishoff Ventures. Let me just see where that email is at, because I had some scheduled to go out. But Nicole Wishoff, she's a powerhouse. She is a solo GP, so solo general partner of her own firm. I think she raised like a 50 mil fund recently, so she's smashing it. I've sent her a follow-up already. Now, the key here is that she opened both emails, and she opens them within like minutes. Now it is late, it's getting super late in San Fran. Let's see what the time is. I'm based in Sydney right now, and it's nearly 3 p.m. here. It's 7:40 p.m. on a Friday night. So I'm gonna send a couple more, and then any emails I send after that, I'm actually gonna schedule to appear in their inbox at about 10 a.m. Saturday morning for them. Some of the best times to email these types of people are on the weekends. These types of people are checking their emails every day. It's on their phone. They'll wake up, check their emails. They get a ton of emails Monday to Friday. They get less emails during the weekend. So don't be afraid to send some emails on the weekend. Folks who are gonna come after me around switching off in work, these types of people do not switch off. They are checking their emails, don't worry about it. Nicole, this week we started tracking the focus time gained by design partners, and even with just RV0, they're already seeing greater productivity compared to using Slack alone. Yeah, I like that. We've got incredible momentum with our pre-seed, which we're on track to close by mid-March, and I'd love to have you on the cap table as an angel investor. Let me know if you'd like to share the deck. I'm gonna take out the long M dash. I'd be thrilled to walk you through it. So I'm gonna take out the exclamation mark. Okay, I'm sending that now. I have a feeling Nicole is gonna open that pretty quickly. Oh, that did not sound good. Okay, cool. So the last clip you saw in this video was 4 weeks ago. Now I needed to give some of the emails some time to marinate and actually have a few conversations with some of the people that I was reaching out to. So you remember that long Google sheet that we had with angels on them? I think I had around 80 names on there, or angels that I wanted to reach out to who I thought would be relevant. Where are we at? Drum roll. Happy to say we have verbal agreements from 2 of the angels to invest in Demi's pre-seed. I will flag that it is verbal, it is determined on the valuation that we end up getting from our lead investor, but very, very positive signs so far. And those folks are Ricky Knox. So he is the CEO of one of the first companies that I worked at called Tandem. Awesome guy, crazy founder himself, has done multiple multi-million-dollar startups now. And Theo Brown. So Theo is, I first knew him as a YouTuber who talks on tech topics like LLMs, new technologies, etc. And then he's also a founder himself, founded T3 Chat, now T3 Code, and previously worked at Twitch as an engineer as well. Now, what I will say is that this took a lot of work. It was not as easy as firing out a few emails and getting loads of people coming back. There were many times where I was on the 3rd email to someone, really starting to lose hope, but I kept telling myself, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and I knew that I could drive action from my own actions. And that's exactly what happened. It was actually my 3rd email to Theo. Now, Ricky, obviously I know Ricky, it was a little bit more of a warmer intro. We had a call, went great. But Theo was completely cold outbound, someone who has hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, doesn't know who I am, we've never met in person, and I reached out through a cold email. It was actually the 3rd email that I sent him. And I think what happened was he was looking at a company called Scylla, who are in the latest YC batch, who were doing something very similar, and piqued his interest in me because I'd been emailing him about it in the weeks prior, completely unintentionally. And then, you can see on the screen, we'll put it up, confirmation that he wanted to come in. Obviously, it's dependent on valuation of the round, but it's not an unreasonable valuation, so looking good. That is 2 of the angels on my list in the round. I actually have upwards of around another $200,000 to $300,000 committed in the pre-seed from angels and syndicates. And this was a learning for me, but I had my list of 80 people, but actually when you go and speak to other people around investing, they often have friends who want to invest as well. And that's kind of what happened to me. So in my situation, a couple of things happened. So I knew, and I won't mention because we haven't agreed to sort of publicize this yet, and some people like to keep it private before the round's announced. But I do know someone who runs a syndicate. A syndicate is a group of angels who invest as one entity, gets them access to more deals. As a founder, it means you don't have hundreds of people on your cap table, you just have the one syndicate line item. Now they're in for around 150 to 200,000 AUD. And again, I've known this person over multiple years now, kept in touch every few months. And then we had a call and he was super interested. So that was great. And then actually in some of the VC conversations that we're having, some of the VCs don't invest in pre-seed. They wanted to chat just to figure out if this was like the 1 in a million that they would make an exception for. But what was happening in those scenarios was, it was very much, hey, as a venture capital firm, this isn't the right fit for us right now. But as an individual, I also angel invest and I'd love to invest in you and Demi. So that happened a couple of times actually, which is really cool. So yeah, with Theo, with Ricky, the syndicate, and a few of the other VCs turned angel investors, we have upwards of 300,000 AUD committed verbally, which is really, really cool. So yeah, pretty pumped to be in this position. Never raised money for a startup before, but I did my research. I kind of knew what was possible out there, but I knew it'd be a lot of hard work. And that's what it was, but that's where we are now. So I'm really happy about that. To wrap up the video, there were so many times where I thought, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna make a video on how to get angel investment and then have no one angel invest. But it's in those times, and this is something you'll have so many times as a founder, that you have to tell yourself to keep going. Resiliency is the name of the game. Don't die is the name of the game. And a lot of that in the early days comes down to you as a founder, willing to put in the work and willing to put in the hours. And that means sending the 3rd, or the 4th, or the 5th email without reply, because who knows, on that 6th one, you'll get a reply that you were hoping for. So that's a reminder to everyone watching, if you are considering being a founder or even a founder yourself right now, stay resilient and good work, hard work, the results will follow. Peace.